much in later life. He was always good company and entertaining to be around. As a teenager, he embraced punk, complete with long, colourful, spiky hair, hard though that may be for those who knew him in later life to believe. Add Simon. He dabbled in music. The drum kit, a favourite of everyone in the house? I imagine not. As well as computing, and finally found his niche as a chef to see him flourish. After schooling, he started as a sous chef in Harrogate when he was 17 or 18. And with his long friendship with David Ashworth, he started, and he moved to Dubai, working for David. But when the start of the first Gulf War prevented him from returning to Dubai, while on a rare trip to UK, a friend suggested he worked on cruise ships. He travelled to many exotic places, including South America and the Beagle Channel, and then north around the Spice Islands for a few years, which was much warmer. Mark then moved to China, where he had an interesting time picking up some words of Chinese. We don't know what those were. And he spent a little time working in Jordan and Oman before settling in Thailand with Lindsay. Mark met and became friends with people everywhere he went. It must have been difficult to stay in touch in those early days. Telephone and letter writing were the only way. Early morning calls from somewhere in the world were a treat. But no good news is good news was the norm. Email, Skype and mobile phones made a difference. We Skyped irregularly, but it was always good to see each other. The joke was one of us would send a message asking when it was a good time to Skype. Mark would then put on a shirt. I would comb my hair, we're ready to start the camera. One Skype showed him in bed, covered in bruises, cut on his leg and bad scratches on his head. He crashed his head. He did love his bikes. His first 125cc, no license of course, through a Moto Guzzi and onto his yellow Harley Davidson, where he stopped. Every now and again Mark would send a long and newsy email, always very well written, informative and humorous. I recall in particular the letter he wrote after the terrible tsunami, an emotive observation of his experience with the event, and about Lindsay's invaluable help to those who needed it. 5 years ago, almost to the exact day, Mark came over here for my 70th birthday, a tremendous surprise. Such a shame that Lindsay couldn't come as well. We all missed him. Ben recalls that Mark had to sleep with a woolly hat on. He kept saying how annoying it was to be cold all the time, and how disappointing it was. He didn't think he lost his resistance to the cold. David remembers Mark sitting in the garden smoking his pipe. It's very rare to have almost everyone together, as you can imagine, and sadly, the last time. He, however, had the chance to visit Phuket earlier this year, and Lindsay has a photo of my visit in January, showing Mark, Lindsay, and myself. It's very comforting for us all to know that Mark and Lindsay's friends are around him and are there to see him on his way. Thank you so very much for your support and love to them both. Sally, Simon, and Ben. And some of these pictures are here of his visits. This is him when he was an officer on the ship, and these you'll recognise from this trip. Not so long ago. So who else would like to see us? Popcorn. I tremble, but it's you.
Okay. For me, I remember Mark because I always give him a crack story about Thai story, you know. When Mark a bit like feel depressed or quiet, I like to tell him some like a bedtime story, but it's not bedtime. Every time we driving, I always give him Thai story, like you know, we have like 12 girls with the girl that black eyes, and she become with she born from the queens, and all of them have a baby, and you know, but it's not real story. But Mark keep listening me all the way to his home, and I said, oh, bad luck, Mark. I'm not finished yet, so to be continue next time. And he said, no, better not. He had enough. But I still force him, so I go back and tell that story, and it ends end of story. and bring other story again about the exhaust. I mean the hacks, then we throw the hacks, and the hacks become silver and gold hacks, and to cut the tree, and you know, kind of that story when I was young. I think he not believe, but he still listen to all my crack. So that's what my memories about him. And after COVID, I tried to bring some friend to his home, and he said, no, no one else, only popcorn. He not welcome anyone. And I said, how can you believe that I'm quarantined? Maybe I'm the most danger one. So that's my memories, how funny about him. Because Mark always make me happy and smiling. So that's my memory about him. Anybody else?
Anybody else like to say something?
No, I'll say something.
Yes?
What I remember the most about Mark is how he used to make my son feel. My son Johnny is 9 years old, and we used to go to the side of the house together. Often just Johnny and I, sometimes with Bowen or some other friends. And he would always say that Johnny was the only child he liked to have inside the house because he was so well behaved. And we'd sit him up at a chair at the table and bring him an Italian soda. He made Johnny feel like a little man, you know, he loved going there. So he always used to ask, can we go to the side of the house and see Mark? You know, that's the main thing I remember, how kind he was. And when he'd get bored, we would take him over to the TV area where the sofa was, set him up some board games, some drafts or something, and put the cartoons on TV. You know, and he would always be telling off other people's kids, but he would always say to me, "Johnny's such a good kid." I remember that a lot. And my last memory of Mark actually is quite funny. I was building a workshop to work on my motorcycles in my house. And he kept on saying, "Go on, to come around and help me build it." I said, "Okay." So he came around my house one night, and I said, "Right now, I'll hold this bit of wood. You put the screws in that bit there." And, he had absolutely no idea how to use the drill properly. He was spinning and coming off with the screws, and he was dropping things. He was holding things up, and he was dropping. I said, "Oh my God, just sit down and let me do it." So he just sat down and watched. So that was the last time I think I saw Mark actually.
I can imagine.
Yeah. He was a lot of good things, but he was not a handyman.
That's vintage.
Yeah. I think so. So yeah, he was a very kind guy, and I'll miss him.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else? Don't feel obliged, but if anybody would like.
Ken พูดอะไรไหมน้อง
Oh, we've waited a long time for this. Yes.
Sorry, I was late today. My best memories of Mark was after a crap day at work, when he'd been stressed out by a customer, and the customer's been an absolute nightmare. My best time of the day would be 5 o'clock or 5:30 when I got myself down to the cider house. Get into the cider house, sit down, have a beer with Mark, he'd come out, smile on his face, chilled out, relaxed, and all his stress and everything would just disappear and just be with Mark. He was such a lovely guy. And I'd end up sitting there till 10:30 at night, because it's just a pleasure to be around. It was such a pleasure to be around. The jokes he'd crack, he'd have you in stitches, you know. Such a lovely man. Made everyone feel welcome, and would go out of his way for everybody. Without shouting, without even thinking twice. It's such a, it was an honour to know Mark and to have him as a friend. Very, very lovely man. I'm sure you'll all agree with that. He's going to be very sadly missed, but remembered for many, many good things.
Thank you.
Anybody else wants to say anything?
น้องเคนพูดอะไรไหมเคนมาพูดไทยก็ได้มา
เดี๋ยว
Speak
นัด
Thai
นัดทุกคนแปล
So, I think I met Mark. I had an old friend, Keith Floyd, which is somebody you will know, and he used to come here quite a bit. He said, "Oh, I want to open a restaurant." I said, "Don't do it. lost money on every restaurant you've ever opened? He said, yes. I said, what we do is we'll get someone to cook. And we'll set up something properly. It'd be wonderful. We could set up in an hotel and we could franchise it out to other hotels. Because you're a great entertainer and you've got great recipes, but let's get someone who can cook. But that was Mark. So Mark could cook. And Mark could also withstand the tempest that was the heat. And we've been friends ever since. And of course he went on from that. I think he was GM there, wasn't he?
Was food beverage director.
And then of course we went to Cider House, which I've never been to. It's just too far. It doesn't seem far, does it? It's a journey back.
Yeah, that's right.
And the thing about Mark is that he's such a gentleman. He had that air of sort of aristocratic laying off of any pressure. Lovely. And since he came from Wales, most unexpected. He's, and there was that loopy smile which I loved. It always made me know there's something nice going on. And whenever I came, lovely chats. And so easy to be with. I think easy is the word that I most use. Ecclesiastes, it says, there's a time for everything and a season for everything. The time to be born and the time to die, and the time to plant and the time to uproot. The time to kill and the time to heal. The time to tear down and the time to build. The time to weep and the time to laugh. The time to mourn and the time to dance. So we're going to mourn a bit and then I hope we're going to dance a bit. And it's always said, you know, when you pass on, there's no more Christians and Buddhists, there's no more Muslims or Sikhs, there's no more men or women, no more Englishmen or Thais, and then we're all one. And we will all become one when we meet again. There's one thing I'd like to read out, it's a favourite of mine. It was a poem by Henry Scott Holland, who was a vicar. And this poem he originally wrote for the funeral of Edward II, King. But it's really nice. And so here it is. Death is nothing at all. It does not count. I have only slipped away into the next room. Nothing has happened. Everything remains exactly as it was. I am I and you are you, and the old life that we live together is untouched, unchanged. Whatever we were to each other, that we still are. Call me by the old familiar name. Speak of me in the easy way, which you always use. Put no difference into your tone. Wear no forced air of solemnity or sorrow. Laugh as we always laugh, at the little jokes we enjoy together. Play, smile, think of me, pray for me. Let my name be ever the household word that it always was. Let it be spoken without an effort, without the ghost of a shadow upon it. Life means all that it ever meant. It is the same as it ever was. There is absolute and unbroken continuity. What is death but a negligible accident? Why should I be out of mind because I'm out of sight? I'm waiting for you, but a small interval, somewhere very near, perhaps around that corner. All is well. Nothing is hurt, nothing is lost. One brief moment, all will be as it was before. How we shall laugh at the trouble of parting when we meet again. So I'll have one little reading, and then we can go down and perhaps have a sign. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort. And I think, oh, we can, somebody blew it up. Perhaps. You arranged the weather for today. You started in rain and came into sun. You arranged the high tide and he's blown out his own hand. See you downstairs.
Hi, Sally.
I make a
Okay, now we go down and have a wait. So. Let's say something with Howard. Howard.
Hi. Oh, most welcome. And we are all going to go and have a cider now in his honour. Because he ran the cider house. Oh. All right. Oh, excellent. Everybody's here. There's not a dry eye in the house.
Okay. I will send all the photo and video to you so you can remember as we are with. Okay. Okay. Bye. Bye.
โอเคโอเคเอารูปลงข้างล่างเทคดาวน์
No more cry. Happy.
No, nothing wrong with crying.
He's just next door. Next door.
Just round the corner.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he's watching. You be careful.
You know, I feel my head stand up, you know, because I have many life stories. You know.
Well, now that you said you gave him bedtime stories,
Yeah, many things.
and then Jean was looking a bit surprised.
No, I was there as well. No,
She couldn't believe I tell that story.
I need something back.
Okay. Calm down.
Little bit, okay? Not too much.
Okay.
Maybe ใครแต่เพื่อนที่ดูว่าคนไทยคนนั้นอีกคนนึง
We take it off.
Sorry, yeah.
What was it? We don't know. We take it off. Yeah. We did once end up with two children. No one had missed. Is that what they are? Children. That was all. Old to know how to get hold of their parents.